All right, welcome to this explainer. Look, if you've been feeling like the traditional digital marketing playbook is just completely broken lately, you definitely aren't alone. Today, we're diving into a fascinating breakdown of modern marketing, and we're going to unpack some source material together that completely dismantles those exhausting systems we're all so tired of. We're going to figure out what actually drives sustainable long-term revenue in today's landscape.
Our source material for today's deep dive is this incredibly insightful document. It's the Startup Circle Session Debrief from August 6th, 2026. This was put together by Justin French, also known as Justin Results French, who was the founder of the Revenue Ronin. And in this session, Justin really uncovers a core theme. He shows exactly how patience-driven community building actually compounds into massive, tangible business wins over time. Okay, let's dive into this. What if everything you've been taught about the modern sales funnel is completely backward? I mean, for years, we've been sold this total myth of overnight digital marketing success, right? We're told you just, build a complex funnel, flip a switch, run some ads, and boom, the leads automatically pour in. But Justin challenges this head on. Using his community's real data, he proves that the true revenue engine operates on an entirely different, much longer timeline. Now, what's really interesting about Justin's core insight here is what actually works today. He argues that your personal brand is the modern sales funnel. It's not some complex web of landing pages, automated tripwires, and countdown timers. It's literally you. It's your reputation. It's the consistent value you put out into the world. In today's highly skeptical landscape, people buy from people they actually trust. And that completely reshapes how we need to think about our whole marketing architecture. And to really drive this vital point home, Justin shares a deeply vulnerable admission with his community. He explicitly points to stopping his personal brand and abandoning his email list building for 15 years as the two single biggest mistakes of his entire career. Think about that for a second. 15 years. Just imagine the sheer amount of compounding trust and audience growth that was just left on the table during that decade and a half. It's a powerful, stark reminder to all of us. Neglecting your personal organic funnel carries a massive, massive long-term cost. Which builds directly into the overarching philosophy of today's explainer, mastering the long game. Listen, if you're a B2B professional who is just completely exhausted by endless cold pitching, sending hundreds of direct messages that go absolutely nowhere, this framework of patience is your antidote. It's about consciously shifting away from the pressure of the immediate transaction. Instead, you focus entirely on nurturing genuine relationships over extended periods of time. So the crucial point is this foundational concept, the 97-3 rule. At any given moment, only about 3% of your target market is actively ready to buy what you're selling. The other 97%, they are simply not ready yet. And the fatal mistake most marketers make is completely ignoring that 97% just because they won't convert today. Justin emphasizes that true conversions play out over years, not weeks. If you build a system that only optimizes for that tiny 3%, you are actively starving your future pipeline. This long-cycle nurture strategy is beautifully illustrated by a real story from the startup circle about a member named Jane. For years, literally years in the past, Jane was just quietly present. She was following the community, absorbing the value, just watching. Then, in the present day, she finally raised her hand. She publicly declared she was ready to launch a cybersecurity and compliance consulting practice. It took multiple years of nurturing for her to reach that 3% buy-in window. But because the community was consistently there for the long haul, they naturally earned that trust when she was finally ready. Now that we understand the timeline, how do we actually execute this? It's time to pivot from the theory of patience to tactical execution. We need to replace those overly complex, highly automated digital funnels with genuine relationship building. It's all about creating consistent, reliable systems that put real value in front of your audience. That way, when they inevitably transition into that 3% ready-to-buy phase, you're the only logical choice in their mind. When we compare our options, it's fascinating. Over the last decade, we've become so conditioned to rely on digital-only touchpoints, drip emails, automated webinars, social media posts. But the debrief highlights a major reality check. Offline relationships and events consistently outconvert purely digital touchpoints. Getting face-to-face or organizing a physical gathering accelerates trust in a profound way that an automated email sequence simply cannot replicate. No way. A perfect, highly tactical example of this is Christelle's $47 dinner model. She actively partners with restaurants to host intimate offline dinners, and the data shows this model drives incredible attendance, even when a prospect's initial motivation to attend a networking event might be pretty low. It works because it's a real, tangible human connection. Justin also brilliantly ties this to her 80-20 listening rule. In an offline setting like a dinner, if you spend 80% of your time listening and only 20% talking, that kind of active listening builds an absolutely unbreakable level of trust.
And it's not just about dinners, right? This philosophy applies to your direct outreach too. Take Bilal's story. He's building a fraud prevention startup that acts as a trust layer. Instead of blasting out cold pitches, Bilal completely reframed his account-based marketing approach. He shifted his entire outreach strategy from trying to sell to simply trying to learn. By leading with value and genuinely asking for insights, rather than just begging for a meeting to pitch, he successfully landed his very first user interview. He built trust infinitely faster by just acting like a curious human being.
And this brilliantly illustrates Justin's audit-first prescriptive selling framework. He treats marketing as a highly logical system, kind of like a doctor sitting down to treat a patient. Step 1, you have to diagnose the broken attribution. Where are your leads actually coming from right now? Step 2, you prescribe solutions based strictly on whether your core problem is acquisition, getting new people in the door, or retention, keeping the ones you already have. You don't just guess and throw random tactics at the wall. You audit the system first and then prescribe the exact necessary fix. Now, this is where playing the long game gets really fun. We've talked about the underlying theory and the specific tactics, but what about the actual ROI, the return on investment? Let's showcase the real-world revenue wins coming directly out of this patience-driven startup circle community. The momentum happening here is just incredible. First up, Justin himself just landed an offer to relaunch his digital marketing class at Miracosta College. And get this, it's a class he hasn't taught since his initial run from 2010 to 2012. Next, there's the launch of the first ever in-person AI for Business Mastermind live event in Escondido, kicking off with 5 paid registrants right out of the gate. And we absolutely have to celebrate the unique community wins too. Hoop's microdrama TikToks are suddenly hitting between 6 and 16,000 views. And, perhaps the greatest miracle of all, Timo's heavily delayed Bitcoin transfer finally cleared, proving once and for all that patience pays off in crypto too. I love seeing those wins, but we have to ground them in the reality of the work. None of this was a happy accident. The proof is in the disciplined consistency of building in public. Justin has spent 2.5 years relentlessly building the revenue Ronin in public. And that startup circle space, they're closing in on almost 2 full years of daily, weekday consistency. Showing up every single day, year after year, is the invisible, unglamorous work that ultimately creates those highly visible, overnight-looking wins. Which brings us to the next practical step in their community journey. As a perfect, real-time example of Kayviz and Simon Sinek's Start With Why framework in action, they've announced a free live webinar with Ben coming up on Friday, August 21st at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. It's titled Revenue First Principles for Your MVP. This just shows they are continuing to practice exactly what they preach, giving immense value up front, continually nurturing that 97% of the market, and always leading with their why. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final pivotal question. Are you playing the long game, or are you just looking for a quick transaction? I challenge you to look closely at your own marketing attribution this week. Are you actively investing in the long-term relationships that will sustain your business years from now, or are you burning through trust just to get a quick sale today? The absolute most successful digital ecosystems are built on patience, offline human connection, and undeniable, consistent value. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this source material, and I really hope this leaves you hungry to rethink your own strategies.